There's a moment that I feel doesn't get talked about enough when it comes to the paranormal. It's not all the experiences, because when that's happening, there's no question you're there, you feel it, you know it. But later, you start pulling at it, turning it over in your mind over and over again, wondering if you missed something, if you misunderstood the moment, if maybe just maybe you got it wrong. And that's the part nobody prepares you for. It's not the fear. It's not the encounter. It's the doubt. Because the longer you stay in this field, the more the rules seem to change. Ghosts don't behave the way they used to. Aliens don't fit the same story anymore. What once felt solid starts to shift. And the question isn't just what's real anymore. It's why does it keep changing? And why do we? That's our topic tonight on the Paranormal 60.
I'm not gonna stand here and listen to this baloney. You won't know. He doesn't stand for baloney.
Sounds like a lot of supernatural baloney to me.
Supernatural, perhaps. Baloney, perhaps not.
Before we begin tonight, I want to invite you to step inside one of Minnesota's most famously haunted hotels and join the Palmer House Hotel for a history and mystery tour. Discover the fascinating past of this historic landmark, from its original owners to the famous guests who've walked its storied halls. The history is only part of the experience. Guests and staff alike have reported unexplained activity for years, and now it's your turn to experience it for yourself. During this exclusive tour, you'll hear chilling stories of the hotel's lingering spirits before heading into the infamous basement, an area closed to the public and only accessible during these special events. There, you'll take part in a guided paranormal investigation and have plenty of time to capture photos and see what might still be checked in after all these years. Tickets are limited, so don't wait. Grab yours now at thepalmerhousehotel.com. Then click the event calendar. We have 2 tours this coming Saturday, 1 to 3 p.m. and 4 to 6 p.m. with our tour guide, Sherry. And then the final 2 for these specially priced events are the last Saturday of April. And if you click on it, I'll be your tour guide that weekend, that Saturday, 1 to 3 p.m. and 4 to 6 p.m. These tickets are very limited. We'd love for you to come on out and see what all the hubbub is. Get a chance to investigate one of Minnesota's hidden treasures and find out for yourself why I didn't just want to become a visitor. I wanted to become the owner of the Palmer House Hotel. It's been a while since we've had a chance to just sit down and talk together, my darklings, and I figured this was as good a time as any, and especially because here I am in a haunted hotel that I now own, and I'm in every day. You start to take some things for granted when you do this, right? I mean, I'm used to going to a haunted location, setting up, preparing mentally, investigating. It's a different faction altogether when you live here, when you're a part of this building 14 to 18 hours a day. Some things pass you by that others notice are strange or unusual. And you start to question, what's going on? Do you become nose blind to the paranormal as well? Do you actually stop noticing the strange, the unusual activity that takes place? God, I hope not. But I will say it's been different. I have had a few experiences since I took ownership, almost, believe it or not, 5 months ago. I know many of you have gotten drunk just hearing me mention that and playing the drinking game that every time I mention I own the Palmer House Hotel, Restaurant, and Pub, you should take a drink. So take a drink right now. But the fact is, I've had people coming and going, having weird, wild, exciting, bizarre, unusual encounters. As a matter of fact, last night it was cute. We had 3 women in the hotel. They were the only 3 people that were guests in the hotel, living guests. And at one point they came down very excited. They had been roaming the halls. I left a few doors open so they could go in and investigate a few rooms. They went into room 15 because they heard a noise. And once they went into the room, the water turned on in the sink by itself, which kind of shocked them. They asked for another sign and the toilet flushed by itself. That was enough to send a few of the women skittering, and the third one just kind of frozen in undeniable belief, I guess, that holy cow, this place is haunted. It's living up to its expectations. They'd been here before and have had many different encounters, including hearing a woman weeping, hearing footsteps where there should be none, children's laughter, the sound of balls bouncing in the hall, just all the great stuff that you hear about a hotel like this. And I started to wonder, well, being here, is it going to alter my perception? Is it going to alter the way I perceive and experience the paranormal? Because now I'm around it. I'm part of it. I'm becoming ingrained in the texture of this building and into the history itself. So do you stop noticing it and just become part of it? Maybe that's why some alien abductees after a time stop talking about it as though it's a violation, although they still feel awkward about it or unsure. It goes from this rage and fear to almost this acceptance. And sometimes they flip all the way around, like Whitley Strieber, who went from at one point believing that what his experience was a violation in the worst form, a form of rape that he had to deal with on board those ships. Now he looks at them as his friends, the visitors. Is it that they got past those initial stages where they wanted to understand him, and now that he is past that initial fear, it doesn't seem so frightening? Or do we just become Stockholm Syndrome survivors and we just learn to accept that which we cannot change? A lot of questions, right? That's why I named this episode Still So Many Questions. And although I've lived a life surrounded by the paranormal, having strange phenomena around me much of my life, I take a lot of it for granted. And when I talk to people, I understand the eye rolls or the deep sighs of, oh yeah, sure, this guy's seen it and has had paranormal experiences with ghosts and has had experiences with psychic phenomena and possibly UFOs and Bigfoot. Yeah, that's real possible. How is it that one person gets all of this? You know, I've talked about it in the past, but I think once you open that door and step through it willingly, maybe they recognize that willingness. Maybe whatever these energies, these beings, this is, it starts making itself known to those who are prepared and ready to accept it. But there's a part of me that gnaws at the back of my brain. Are these hallucinations? Am I just accepting them as fact because I witnessed it? I take gut checks often because I remember, well, hey, listen, I wasn't alone. You know, our buddy Mark Lanou, who's in the chat room, was here with me in the hotel when we heard what we thought was Winnie coming down the stairs, and we both turned to greet her, and the footsteps continued, and there was no one there. Now, this wasn't just me having an experience that could have been misunderstood, and maybe I thought I heard footsteps coming down the stairs, but she was really walking down the hall, which she wasn't. She was in her room, just gotten out of the shower, because I called her immediately when we heard the footsteps and there was nobody there. We were still trying to make sense of that moment. Part of my heart breaks for people that have had experiences and feel the loneliness, feel the isolation of not knowing where to go, who to turn to, what they should or should not talk about. I understand so much by people that come to me and oh, you don't really believe in this paranormal, do you? And it's like they're feeling you out to make sure that you're going to be a safe environment for them, a safe person to speak to. Because once I confide, yes, I firmly believe that there is something unusual going on around us. that's when their guard comes down and most of them open up and begin to tell me their own stories. So I don't hold it against people that are skeptics, cynics, non-believers, debunkers. I think they all want to have that moment happen to them. But I think so many people want to have that moment and they keep that guard up. They keep the wall up because it's easier to want something. And how many of us know this in relationships? You want something, but you're afraid to take that first step for fear of rejection, fear of laughter, fear of being looked at strangely, all of it. And it's like that with this field. I think I've put a lot of Bigfooters on the hook when I ask them, so you go out, how often? All the time. You go out into the woods, you don't carry a gun, maybe some bear mace, that's it. What is your goal if you find one? If you round the corner and boom, there's 10 feet tall of hairy mammoth being. And you're not certain, we'd all like to think they're this benevolent spirit of the woods who's there to watch over and protect us. But there's still that fear of it's a wild animal. And is it going to rend me limb from limb? And we've heard more and more of these stories where the beings do seem more aggressive. And I asked them, what is your hope in that moment? I mean, that's a different thing than what is your plan. The hope is to see it, experience it, be a part of it, hopefully catch it on their camera. I've had many of them tell me in private, I don't even care if I capture a picture. I just want to see it. I want all doubt put out of my head, all of the questions I've had about the noises I've heard, the rocks that are thrown, the sounds that are out there emanating from the woods that don't sound like any other known natural creature. And I respect that. But what do you do when you find one? What do you do? Do you bow before it? I've said that. I said, watching Planet of the Apes and especially the new ones and learning about ape mentality and things, I think I would bow my head before it and put my hand up as though just subservient to let them know I respect them. That's what I'd like to think I'd do. I'd probably poop and just stand there and tremble because holy cow, it's real. It's here. Unless, of course, they are speaking telepathically to you and they do emit some kind of calming resonance, which we can all hope for, because nobody wants to poop themselves. Well, I shouldn't say that. No good person just wants to poop themselves in that situation. But it's fascinating to me how many people don't really have a plan of action when the moment strikes. I have people that walk through the door of this hotel daily that want to have an experience until they have that experience and never want to come back. And not because they were thrown to the ground or bitten, not because something leaned into their ear and growled, but because, holy shit, the world just got smaller and larger at the same time because I can no longer deny what it is that just happened. At least that's our initial take until we start denying it. And I've had that problem throughout my entire existence. I dismiss my first initial moments, even though I don't want to because they dealt with my grandmother, but I have no childhood memories of that. I was very young, 2.5, 3 years old. My parents, my aunt, they remember it because it was so ingrained in them that, oh my God, Davey's talking to mom, to grandma, to something there. And it's not his imagination. He tells us things he shouldn't know. He knows things he shouldn't know. And then it just kind of goes away. And I wonder why so many people that have a shared experience, like a Bigfoot encounter, seeing lights in the sky that defy explanation, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that is not a plane, that is not a kite, that's not just a little drone overhead, that you and your friend are now witnessing something beyond our ken, beyond our current understanding and knowledge of what exists. And then they never speak of it again. maybe not for another 10, 20, 30 years, maybe never again. And then one day they think about it and they think, why didn't I ever talk to Dave about that again? I know what we saw. I know what we experienced. I think we want the world and we want our experiences to be bigger than they are. But like love, sometimes we want love until we get it, and it's scary. Because now that we have it, what do we do with the knowledge, with the emotion, with the feeling? Because suddenly it's real. It's here. There's a tactile feeling and an emotion that goes along with it. That's pretty powerful, isn't it? When you really think about it, it's like that feeling as a child that we don't remember, of falling, getting back up, falling, getting back up, falling, until we can get up and take those first few steps. And isn't it interesting how in those stages of our life, we may be seeing things that everybody else can't, but we can't verbally share that. We have no words to convey the experience we're having. We know we've fallen and it hurts, and we get back up and we try it again, and we fall and it hurts and we get back up until we can move forward. Physically, that's a really remarkable aspect. How many of us have been hurt in a relationship, have been hurt financially, have been hurt in a friendship, and we're afraid to push forward again? Well, you stand back up, dust off, and then you find a new friend. You find that new love. You find that new place, that new thing that inspires you. I will admit, and I've talked to Jeff Belanger and Dustin Perry and Jason Hawes and Grant Wilson and Zach Baggins and Aaron Goodwin and Nick Groff. And I think at one point or another, we've all gotten kind of burned out by the field because it's overstimulation. Now you've had these experiences, your brain is wrapped around it. You've come to the fold of, okay, it's there, it's real. And you become numb to it, like EMTs. You might overhear doctors or EMTs discussing something that is very maudlin, but they're laughing hysterically about it. It's their way of mentally keeping track, of being able to not break. And maybe that's what happens to us, is we just get to a point where it's like, okay, it's so real. What now? It also really kind of, and trust me, this is going to come around, I hope, if I can keep my brain in a linear pattern here. But it's really interesting because you have that experience, you push it away, you pull it back in, you re-examine it, you push it away, you pull it back in. It's like a Rubik's Cube. I can't get this damn thing. And you throw it down, and then you pick it up and you move a few, and now you've found a way to make the pattern make sense on one side. And then you start examining it again, and you twist and turn, and then now it's on two sides. And soon the third side shifts in. But what you find is maybe not all the sides, but three of them now make sense. You know that you weren't hallucinating. You know that you were wide awake. You know that there was someone with you. So this is what you know. These three sides I can figure out. I don't know how to make the other three sides line up to give me that concrete feeling that this is a definitive moment. So we accept things as they are. We accept things as it was, as we remember it. And then we keep pulling at it like taffy, and we want to try to manipulate it. And some people make a bigger thing of it because they want to feel as though what I experienced just wasn't enough. There needs to be more to make this acceptable. So I've listened to people tell stories, and I've watched stories morph over the years as they tell it. Is it because they're remembering more? It's triggering deeper memories, or that the mind is filling in gaps so that we don't feel stupid. We don't feel weird. I'm going to explain what I'm explaining to you, but I'm going to fill in a couple of holes so that I don't sound as lunatic. I don't sound as crazy or manic. That's the real problem, because we're not always honest with ourselves fully. Because if we're honest with ourselves, it can be very scary. right? You've taken something from a concept and a theory into concrete evidence and belief, and then you want to shake it back to theory and idea and disassemble it because it's less intimidating in pieces. Yeah, I'm going to be scattered a lot tonight as we discuss this because there is no one solid answer. And I'm excited that science is taking a hard-edged look at some of this. But I'm reminded by friends who are in the scientific field, Dave, they never stopped looking at this. The government pumped millions of dollars into MK Ultra, into mind control, into telepathy, into examining what we are capable of, into remote viewing. And not only did they pump all this money into it, they've allowed those that did it and were good at it to go out and share it with the world. That's where it gets weird, right? Because then you're like, wait a minute. If there's this government conspiracy and they don't like the truth being told, why is David Morehouse still out there talking about it? Why are so many of these people allowed to continue? Is it enough that, okay, let's let the occasional nutbag out there talk about it because they're going to bring enough credibility shaking aspects to it because of who they are, the way they present it, their belief system, their enthusiasm and excitement. Isn't it funny? Sometimes that which we're most suffering succotash, that which we are most excited and enthusiastic about makes us sound even more crazy. But then when you sound complacent and matter of fact about it, how can you believe what that guy just said? He barely sounded like he believed it himself. There's no winning in this field. What would be the evidence that I could bring forth if I sat here right now and a ghost sat on my lap, looked dead into this camera, spoke into this microphone and said, boo, y'all? I'm willing to believe, because you're my darklings and you're intelligent and you're loving and empathetic, most of you would go, holy crap, we just shared that experience with Dave. That was all I ever needed. I saw it. I saw it happen to Dave in real time in that moment. And then the others are, I can't believe that charlatan, that huckster, that fraudster. He just played some stupid filter over this and suckered in all these people. And many of you that are friends and followers and have been for years may be completely turned off by something concrete happening to me right here, right now, in front of you, because we're also jaded and we know how easily we can be manipulated. We're manipulated every day. Magic is manipulation. It's not a real art. It's not taking nothing and turning it into something. There's sleight of hand. There's discombobulation. There's this twisting and turning and smoke and mirrors to make you look over here while I'm doing something very bland and mundane over here, but making it appear more exciting, right? Harry Houdini was so adept at what he could do in his escapism that he actually learned a hard lesson. When he went into the water can, he was out of the water can probably before the curtain raised. So he would sit there with a newspaper on top of the water can and he'd read the newspaper. And sometimes his assistants would have to whisper, Harry, we can hear the paper. And he would have to be quiet then with the paper shuffling, because it was not believable. If he got in the can, the curtain went up, pulled down the curtain, and there he was. That's not believable. What made it more believable was the ticking of the clock, sweating in the audience, all this collective nervousness, anxiety, panic, everybody having this claustrophobic moment to themselves, and then him stumbling out from behind the curtain. Smoke and mirrors. We're all fooled by this. But what do we say when we have that moment that is undeniable? You round that corner and there is an 8 to 10 foot tall, hairy bipedal figure. How many people say they just stare? They don't lift their phone to take a photograph. We want to then give Bigfoot the ability to hypersonic sound us so that we are unable to concentrate and think to take a photograph. I think it's just that your brain is trying to work through the moment as it's happening to process the unbelievable and find a way for your brain to accept it. I've had those moments when I got knocked down on the Holzer files. And listen, I read the critics and I see what they've said. That's great. They weren't there. They didn't have it happen. But I respect their disbelief. I respect it because people do want to fool you. That moment was something different to me. If you watch that episode of Holzer Files when we were at the Whaley house and I get knocked to the ground, I don't overreact. I don't, oh my God, I flip out, and I don't run out screaming. I turn because logically somebody bumped into me and I fell. And when I turn and there's nobody there, my brain, I call it broke. I couldn't compartmentalize the sensation, the feeling, and I mean the emotional feeling, the wow factor of it all. And I just said, I got to get out of here for a little bit. And I went out in the yard talking to myself because it's one thing to watch it on TV. And I'm friends with the people that you watch on TV. And I've seen things in hijinks that I think, oh, guys, come on. That seems fake. And then you get knocked on your ass. And you're left realizing, I don't know anything. I cannot begin to comprehend and process the experience that just took place. Do I talk about it? One, I've mentioned it. There are many new viewers and followers on this, so I'll mention this quickly before we take a quick break. The other experience I had on that episode was an embarrassing, humiliating moment that at the beginning of the episode, Shane and I are talking to one of the docents, one of the people that work at the Whaley House, and we were up by the theater room upstairs. And her name was Jokey. She was a very lovely human being and person who was so enthusiastic and filled with light and love for this location that I feel bad that what happened to me happened because I feel like it was cut. And therefore her part didn't shine as brightly as it should have. But as we were standing there listening to Jokey, she said that there's a male spirit here in this area that does not like men that think they are in places of authority. And I began thinking to myself, what can I do? Because I still was respectful of spirits. I didn't want to be rude. I didn't want to call out ghosts. I didn't want to be disrespectful in any way. So I thought, what can I do to seem authoritative, to seem like you're going to yield to me? When suddenly I felt something. And my brain again tried to make sense. The synapses were firing. That feeling must have been that the cord from my microphone on my pack, on my belt loop in the back, must have hooked under my pocket, and I moved and it popped. And I thought, I don't remember moving. I don't remember moving. And a new sensation overtook. My butt felt cold. I hadn't bent over, so I knew that my pants didn't tear. And I got this shocked look on my face. And the executive producer was one of our cameramen in the first couple episodes. And he was actually out on the roof shooting me through the window. And he saw the expression change on my face. And he said, Dave, what's going on? Talk to me. I said, I don't know that I want to. I don't know. Well, what happened? I don't know. Because part of it was embarrassment. I couldn't figure out how to put in words because I knew how ridiculous what I was about to say sounded. And he goes, this is what we're here for. You're on a paranormal show. This is a safe place for you to share. I said, I don't think this moment is. I feel a little degraded right now. And I'm not even certain that what happened is what I believe happened. He goes, well, then just tell us. Well, we can move on. We'll edit it out if it doesn't work. And I said, I think something just yanked my underwear down from inside my pants. And there was, of course, that kind of muddied laughter from everybody around, which made me feel even more stupid. But they could see that I was very uncomfortable. So much so I grabbed Shane and I dragged him over to the side of the stage, off to the side where people couldn't see me. And I said, look, and I held up my hand and I just unlashed my belt and dropped my pants so he would see I wasn't wiggling anything down. And my pants fell and my underwear was in fact pulled underneath my buttocks. And when I turned around, the camera guy's over his shoulder filming it, which was embarrassing. And then I thought maybe the band just blew out. Maybe it was just that time. And guys, you know what I'm talking about. We sometimes keep our underwear 10 or 11 years longer than we should. And that elastic band just gives out. And I wondered, is that what just occurred? You know, I wanted to make sense of it because to me, let's just let it be the elastic popped and it just happened to be its time, because that's more comforting than something reached through my pants and pulled my underwear down. And I realized how stupid it sounds. But if you're a spirit who doesn't like people in authority and you realize that this person in front of you or behind you is trying to think of a way to act the fool, do you just nip it in the bud and show him what real power is, which is what I feel like happened? When I got knocked to the ground, I had to question, did I black out? Did I maybe just get so caught up in the moment and so excited I blacked out for a second and that I didn't really get hit? It wasn't until we watched the video footage and you see me lift up into Shane and then I hit the ground that it resonated with me that this was something far beyond normal. But it's, 7 years later, and that still plays in my mind all the time of what did that experience really mean? What did I learn from it? It humbled me, which is good, I guess, because there are other moments where I was hurt, scared, pushed, bitten, but it put me into a different empathetic place to think through the moment instead of react in the moment, instead of running out scared, instead of being the fool or threatening or throwing holy water around. And I'm not picking on any of the shows that do that. Everybody reacts differently to a stressful situation. Those were just the thoughts in my mind. So instead, I felt that it became a gift to me. These moments became a gift to me, as though the spirits chose me. See the way the brain works? They chose me so that I could have this experience because I wasn't going to run away, because I wasn't being disrespectful and challenging it, but that it wanted to let me know in a profound way, I'm here and this is very real. I had questions about Cindy and her abilities when we began working together, and there were just so many things that there's no possible way she could know. No way she could know things that we didn't know. And we had to research. We uncovered, not production, not somebody else. We uncovered it and found it out. And it backed up the history and backed up what she said. That element of it really kind of stuck out to me, and it changed my paradigm and belief system on so many things. That's why I've said where I stood 20 years ago to where I stand today is a totally different thing. I've become instead of a pillar in the water that the water crashes against, I've become a bobber, a buoy that rides the tide and sees where it takes me. Because I do believe that these things can't be easily defined and shouldn't be easily defined. And if we defined them to the point that they were finite and we knew this was the answer, wouldn't that make life boring? When you know how the magic trick is done, remember when the masked magician came out and was showing you how all of the magic was being done? It was disturbing and heartbreaking because, damn it, that took away kind of part of our innocence. That moment when our parents admitted that some things we believed as children weren't true, we were angry. We were frustrated because we wanted it to be true. And how dare you lie to me? And why did you have to tell me the truth now? Because I loved that feeling. I loved that sense of security and joyful magic. It's a conundrum, right? All of these emotions roiling and boiling at the same time. And when you say roiling and boiling, you think it's a negative emotion. It's not. Things can exist, coexist all in once. Anger, frustration, love, happiness, joy, sadness. It's all there and packed into these moments. I'm always fascinated and humbled by the field that I'm a part of, and that I get to explore the field and be a purveyor of these stories, a narrator to the tales, somebody that introduces you to experiencers to maybe help you feel less alone in the world. That although their experience doesn't align necessarily exactly with yours, you now realize you're not the only one out there feeling these things or having these experiences or seeing or smelling or touching or tasting, because there are other people that are doing this. And maybe that's why we're so offended when we find out that there are people out there faking it. But yet we keep tuning into those TikTok videos, don't we? In the hopes that maybe this one's real. Maybe this one will align with what I've had an experience for. I think it's part of why we're so fascinated with true crime too, is that we want to understand how people make the decisions they make. And then we're terrified all in the same moment that if it makes sense to us, does that make us any different than the killers that did these heinous crimes? If we can make sense of what they thought, why they were there, if we can dismiss it, explain it away, does that make us as big a monster? Lots to discuss. I will open up the comments as I continue, and I will do my best to split time and answer some questions or talk about points that you have an interest in. We're just going to take a very short break. We'll come back. We've got a lot more to discuss tonight. I don't know. Maybe it'll be Paranormal 60, maybe Paranormal 75. If you want to hang in with me, maybe we'll even get up to the Paranormal 90. Tonight, I feel, is a conversation just between us, between friends. We'll be back in just a few moments, friends. Thank you for tuning in to the Paranormal 60. Are you ready to step beyond the veil? June 11th through the 13th, something extraordinary is happening. Break On Through, a 3-day paranormal experience hosted by me, Dave Schrader, at the historic and haunted Palmer House Hotel in Sauk Center, Minnesota. I'm bringing together some of the most respected psychic mediums and paranormal minds for a weekend that explores the unexplained. Featuring special guest psychic mediums Chris Fleming, Diet Renee, and Sarah Lemos. This immersive event goes far beyond lectures. Dive into fascinating classes, presentations, take part in hands-on experiments, experience powerful live gallery readings, and join real paranormal investigations. So whether you're searching for answers, curious about the unknown, or hoping to connect with something beyond this world, this weekend is designed to open doors you never knew existed. 3 days, incredible guests, paranormal exploration, and more fun than should legally be allowed. Space is limited, so reserve your spot now. Visit darknessevents.com for details and tickets. That's darknessevents.com. Come explore the unknown and break on through. And I encourage you, not as a business owner, but as somebody that wants you to have an experience, come to an event like the Break On Through event and see for yourself. Become part of that mystery. Maybe nothing will happen for you, but what if, just what if, this one time it does? What if you get to see through the veil? Check it out, darknessevents.com, that event and so many others. I've got the chat up. I'm going to try to keep an eye on the chat. If you have questions, specific points you'd like me to make or talk about, this is a good time to put it in there. And I apologize for those of you watching as I keep touching my nose. I'm fighting sneezing. Here in Minnesota, we are in the snow mold era. Snow is melted, heat has come up, and all of that gross toxins in the grass is sprouted around, and then we're due to get snow again this week. So we're going to go from 70-degree weather back down into the 30s and have snow. So yay, but I wouldn't change a thing. I love this state. I love this place, and I hope that you'll come share Sauk Center with me sometime. Let's see. We've got some questions. We've got some points here. Let me see. Yeah, people are talking about my break on through to the other side. Hey, that's why I called it that. That's one of my favorite songs that I always believed had a very supernatural, paranormal element to it, right? Breaking on through to the other side of what you are now, to the belief systems, to everything that you hold holy, and see what comes next. That's exciting to me. Let's see. The Holzer Files. What's this? Dawn Brown says, the Holzer Files. That's where I found you, Mr. Schrader. Now I follow you and Shane, Cindy. Thank you for your work. Thank you, Dawn. Appreciate that. Check out our new show, Paranormal Mysteries. It's on Stream Beacon TV. And we have 6 episodes. And then we have the special, which is called An Evening with Spirits. And now we have a brand new set of 6 episodes that are going back and examining the first 6 episodes, where we talk more in depth, kind of almost like a video podcast or video vlog about those episodes. And they're anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes long. When we go into a deeper dive, you get to actually hear from us talking about it in our own thought process as we discuss it for the first time since that case. It gave us a chance. It was very cathartic, I think, for all 3 of us to get a chance to talk about it and discuss what we experienced. Let's see. Just trying to keep up on this. I want to see. Shane's in our chat room tonight. He goes, I was there for all you talked about it. Hard to explain, and until you experience it, you may never have a full understanding of it. You know, I talked a little bit earlier about cyclical and how things happen. And I think Shane's written a great book, as a matter of fact. And Shane, put the title up in the chat, and I'll read it again so that I can let everybody know about the title of your book. Not the new one that's coming out, but your first book, because he's very raw in his book, talking about his life and experiences and how it brought him to the paranormal. You know, is it predestined? Are these things happening to put us there? It's the egg or the chicken first. And I don't mean to say chicken because Shane's on. That's not my intent. My point is, was he drawn to the paranormal because of what his life was like? Or was he meant to become part of the paranormal? And these are the keys and the tumbler that had to fall into place to get him here, right? I watched a great evolution with Shane through the Holzer Files and onto his show 28 Days Haunted and into Paranormal Mysteries. And I watch him and love watching that. And I've watched moments of wonder break for him. And I've watched him question and challenge an experience I've had, wanting to know what it was, and hard to wrap your head around it. Just like there were moments when Shane was touched through the wall, something grabbed his shoulder and he jumped up and screamed. Again, chicken or the egg. Did that experience happen so that he would move the camera in a way that caught that window, so that at that exact moment you could see the handprint appear on the window? Would he have missed that because he didn't have the thermal camera pointed at the window? Was this a gentle push or a nod to get him so that he could have that next aha moment? Or was it all just happenstance? That's what's so beautiful about this. It allows you to think through these things. But going back to the emotional stance of this, and let me see if he put the, yeah, that's right, Nick. Hashtag poor Shane. Shane, Hope on the Other Side of Pain is the name of his book. Hope on the Other Side of Pain. So many of us in this field that have an interest in it. I talk to you. I hear from you. I get messages from you. I put up prayer requests from you. And so many of you are touched by tragedy throughout your life. Maybe you were bullied. I was bullied horribly, horribly. I was a redhead. I looked like Howdy Doody. I know nobody past the age of 40 or below the age of 40 knows who Howdy Doody is. But I was a flaming redhead with freckles. And my mom gave me haircuts that were not great. And I didn't get nice jeans. I got, you know, the knockoff jeans at Kmart that were made of like felt and white stitched and looked horrible. And I was an easy target to pick on. But I went through that. I had a nervous breakdown in 4th grade. to the point that I had to be removed from the school and taken to another school because I broke down in front of my mom. She saw for herself that this wasn't the hallucinations of a child feeling he was picked on. She watched it happen in real time when she came and shadowed me for a day at school. Maybe that's why when I feel bullied by the spirits from time to time, and when I've told Shane, this isn't the moment to run. This is the moment we stand. This is the moment that they are being heard and we can't run away from them. They want to see and test our mettle. Are we going to run out of the basement screaming, or are we going to turn around and face our fears, and then the real communication happens in that moment, right? In Shane's new book, Can Nobody Hear Me? It's a powerful moment from one of the Holzer files as well. And it beckons to the same feeling of feeling that isolation, that alone, that moment. And I think a lot of times that we're not meant to fully understand all of what's going on. Because if we all understood it 100%, like I said, part of the magic is gone. Part of the inspiration and awe of living is stolen away from us, taken away. And I wouldn't want that for anybody. And I've said it on the show before, and I'll say it again. I think if we knew beyond a shadow of a doubt, which many of us do, but we allow that little niggling feeling in the back of our skull to say, not so fast. Maybe it's just your hopes. Maybe it's your desires that there's something that extends beyond this physical form. But if we knew without any hesitation, then many of us that deal with anxiety and depression and feel pulled down by it might release ourselves and unalive, because we know we get a reset button. We know we get forgiven. We know we get to start over and end the pain that is now. But maybe that's the whole point, is we're not supposed to. We're supposed to get through this pain to learn from it. I know Shane and I have learned a lot from the pain that we deal with and have dealt with, and the bullying and the abuse and the mental anguish. It helps us, I think, be better investigators because we have more empathy in the moment. I think that's why our team really gels well. And I don't mean to keep patting our team on the back, but I think it's because there is such a caring and an underlying family. And it doesn't mean we don't disagree, and we've fought between us. All three of us have had little skirmishes from time to time, but that's what happens in a family. But what keeps us together is the empathy and love. And that's beautiful, right? And that's what I wish for all of you, is that you can have these moments of discussion and disagreement, but come back together under the thought that there's something more here to what we do, and we need to keep pushing through. But I really do think that if we knew it all, if the veneer was pulled down and we knew it wasn't real or we knew it was real, I think either way, that would let a lot of the air out of the balloon that keeps us floating along, wanting something exciting to happen. Fear is a strange motivator. It pushes us into uncomfortable positions. It keeps us from experiencing life the way we should. I want to acknowledge this because I do appreciate when people do this. Sarah Shaw, 1581. Sometimes, Dave, you just have to learn to be, not worry, but just be. She's donated $5 to the cause. Thank you so much, Sarah. I appreciate that. Let's see. We've got Ashley Clayton, who pops up. She says, currently experiencing paranormal activity in a hotel, a Holiday Inn in Chester South. Lean into it. Let it happen. Be a part of it. Allow the experience. Try not to push back. Try to keep the fear at bay. The fear is healthy. It's what keeps us safe. It keeps us from running into the fire, right? But allow the walls to come down and see. Have you ever been so afraid of something? I'm terrified of heights. And I went ziplining once. And it was that ziplining where you lay down in that little cradle and you, the first 8 seconds was misery, and then it stopped. And I was Superman for a few moments. I saw the world from a different perspective. I felt the sun on my face, the wind rushing through what little hair I still had on my head. And it gave me a new appreciation and beauty and understanding for things. And wow, doesn't mean I'm really keen on getting up high on something if I know I'm not strapped on and safe. But even in those moments, sometimes when we get past that crippling fear, that's when the experience and the life moment happens for us, right? Very exciting stuff. Oh, that's very sweet. Let me see here. We've got Addie Paranormal Pastoress says, speaking of friends, Dave, thank you for not only someone to admire, but for being real and humble. You are a light, and I'm glad to call you a friend. The feeling is mutual. Thank you, Addie. You jerks are going to try to get me a weepy on this show, aren't you? The Pa Ingalls of the paranormal. Just because poor Shane wanders into the chat room, you're going to try to poke me and make me cry. Mark Lanou says, a tip for the stair-walking spirit at the Palmer House. Keep up the good work. I don't know if you want me to keep up the good work or the stair-walking ghost, but either way, I agree. It's cool to have these kind of things happening around us all the time. And Addie, I couldn't agree with you more. Shane is a wonderful person and a very gentle soul. Unless he's had a few drinks, he can get a little owly then, but still a good guy. Was there anything else I'm missing in here? I want to make sure I noticed. Scott Levin says, I was at the Palmer House, your event in March of 2025. It was amazing. We did not use equipment and instead used our senses, right? When we stripped back all of the crap, all of the blinky, flashy digital crap, and just allowed ourselves to be in the moment, Scott, holy shnikes. We connected in ways that we didn't know was possible. We experienced things in a group setting without words being shared until after the moment. And everyone wrote it down so that you could take out your notebook and prove. I'm not just saying, oh yeah, I had the same experience because Shane said it. Shane's got it in his notebook. I've got it in my notebook. Cindy's got it in her notebook. Scott's got it in his notebook. 4 people saw and witnessed the same thing without speaking a word to one another. Now, that also doesn't mean diddly to what we think it might mean. Maybe it shows how connected we really are. And that my thought process, my moment of fear, trepidation, expectation was so powerful and so strong in that moment that it shared with Cindy and Shane and Scott. And what they experienced was not an actual effect of something ghostly, but picked up on the ripple effect of my experience. I know that sounds crazy. Hear me out. There are near-death experiences, and then there are experiences called shared near-death experiences. Dr. Raymond Moody has written books and books about this, and it's mind-blowing. There are cases where hospice workers are in the room or relatives are in the room with the dying patient, holding their hands, talking, when suddenly they start seeing the life review. They start having the memories and the emotions and the feelings. Holy cow. They see the light open in the room and the spirits come forth. Is that because they're near death, or is it because they're near death? And they're in that moment resonating with that person, and they're sharing that moment of projection. Either way, wow. How impactful, how beautiful. It's overwhelming to think of these things, and it's scary. There are people terrified to go to bed at night because of the visitors in their room. Visitors that as a paranormal investigator I hear, and because of my slant, I might believe that they're ghosts or perhaps demons, shadow figures, shadow people. But to Whitley Strieber, who wrote the book, many books on his alien abductions, but Communion, he might hear this and know immediately to identify this is one of the visitors. This is one of the aliens. Without a shadow of a doubt, he knows that. To someone else, it's a fairy. It's part of the Fae realm. To another, it's witch a witch's spirit. To someone else, it's an astral projection of a loved one who's coming to visit them. All the same experience, all defined from different perspectives. Who's right, who's wrong. We don't have to have a definitive answer. We want to have the definitive answer. We all want to be the one that's right about it. We all want to be the one that can define the moment the best. And you know, there were times when they would say, take us out at the end, Dave, at the end of the Holzer Files, at the end of Ghosts of Devil's Perch, even at the end of Paranormal Mysteries, take us out, Dave. Because Cindy and Shane would let me speak. They felt that I was eloquent and I could summarize the moment or the experience. But there are many times, and Shane can attest to this, as soon as I got done speaking, you'll see Cindy nodding and eyebrows up like, oh my God, yes. And then there's a beat. And then she goes, and she shares her experience. And sometimes it's yielded to her experience and her belief system, sometimes to mine, and on occasion to what Shane believes. None of us were wrong. It was each our moment, and each one of us seeing things from a different perspective. I get warned, Cindy, Shane and I have been warned on numerous occasions. And even though we know and love Cindy and respect her, listen, this thing goes after psychics. It goes after mediums. The first thing that Shane and I want to do is go into protective big brother mode, and we want to help Cindy. We want to warn her. And she goes, don't you say anything. Don't you tell me, because I don't want you putting your preconceived or somebody else's belief system in my head. Let me work through this moment myself. And we've learned to step back. Because now she doesn't know if she's going to get the projection from us, if she's having a true experience, if she's getting the intention of what other people have laid on that spot. And it's hard for her too. She'll tell you that this is what she's picking up. And sometimes it's trying to cut through that. When we were in Savannah in Paranormal Mysteries season 1, and we were at the Sorrel Weed House, definitive. She knew this, she knew that. And then she started walking it back, and she's like, wait a minute, I feel like I'm walking through other people's smoke. I feel like this is what they're blowing. That's their perception. But as she moved through the smoke, she got to the detail of some of these instances, and that this is what really happened, at least in her perception, is that it wasn't this, it wasn't that. It was this woman who was suffering loss in an unbelievable way, had lost multiple children, whose husband was on the road and on the sea working, and she was forced to stay and marinate in the losses in her life, and how chaotic her brain must have been, and the grief that she felt, and what people thought was she was crazy. They thought she was a drunkard, or they thought she was on drugs. Maybe she was on laudanum. Maybe she was having a drink that night. Maybe she was mentally deranged, or maybe this was just a woman trying to deal with an overwhelming set of circumstances. And Cindy, being a woman, could relate to that. And she put Shane in our place and said, give us credit as women. We can deal with more. And you have to step back, because I'm not a woman. Well, Shane will tell you different, but I'm not a woman. So I have to yield to that presence, that maybe you do have a different perspective, and let's hear what that perspective is. And I can't discount it. Sometimes what she says resonates, because I remember moments with my mom or my wife or my daughters, and how they were impacted or affected simply by an emotion that somebody else was having. And that's pretty powerful. That's very powerful. So again, we can't just summarily dismiss things because we don't understand the feeling of it. The shadowy figures, the visitations, the dreams. I fight with the concept of the dream visitation I had with my grandfather all the time, that it was grief. That it was me trying to process that I didn't get to say goodbye to somebody who meant so much to me. That crippled me until I had the dream visitation. But even now, I look back at it with a different sense, which still makes me feel loved. That I don't know that I actually met with my grandfather in that dream visitation, that maybe it was an angel that took on the guise of something I would love, respect, and believe. Because it knew if it appeared to me with white wings and a halo floating above my bed going, "Oh, David, fear not, for you two shall be reunited in the future when it is your time," I would definitely believe I was dreaming. But instead, my grandfather, in full flesh and blood, stood before me and answered my questions and laughed his wonderful laugh, spoke to me the way that he would, and embraced me the way he would to say goodbye. And I really do think that now, I think my grandfather was off doing whatever comes next. I think I got a visitation from an angel who took that guise. And that's not meant to discount my grandfather in any way, shape, or form. But I think that's why I haven't had that with my mom. I've seen mom in dreams. She's in the background. I've never had one that's so impactful, so detailed, so clear. I had one brief one with my father, maybe 2 weeks after he passed, but it was fleeting. It was enough to wake me up in tears that were just sad tears that I got to say goodbye. But again, I think in the back of my mind, I knew that it was something helping me deal with that. And some of you may feel disappointed by that. Some of you may feel like, well, that sucks. I want it to be your grandpa. I want it to be my grandpa. I want it to be my mom or my dad or my sister, my brother, my children, my aunt, my uncle, my grandkids, my grandparents. I'm not saying that what I believe is the answer. It's just some of the things that nuanced. See, notice I didn't dismiss it summarily as grief, but I've embraced it in other ways. Not ways that necessarily even make me more comfortable. They do to a degree because I like to feel that, oh, God is watching. The angels are watching. Some energy took a form to comfort me. Whatever that energy was, beautiful, and it made me feel great. Let me see here. I got a couple more. Dave, couldn't the egg and chicken both exist at the same time in overlapping time loops? Nick Kraken Crew brings that up. You're right, Nick. Again, we want to look at things linear. And the egg and the chicken both exist. And so does the embryo, right? And the instant of germination when that became something from just an egg. All of those coexist at once in different layers of time in that being's story. So yeah, maybe things can coexist. That's another great example of it. And it's not something I could throw out. Oh, that doesn't make sense to me, Kraken. Right? Because there's elements to each one of these stories that does. And it's okay to take from those things. That's what I've done over the 20 years that I've deeply pushed into this, is that I've allowed multiple things to be true at once. Well, isn't that convenient, says the skeptic. Sure as fuck is. It really is. Because that means that there is so much more potential to a moment, to an experience, to an existence. Now imagine if we gave this same effort and time, and Shane and I have talked about this, and I've talked about it with Scotty and Sarah. What if I'm so focused on dead that I'm missing the living? Where's my empathy with my living when I'm maybe not the best husband and I'm a little crabbier because I'm tired and I'm worn out? But in the same instant, a little baby ghost starts talking to me here, and I'm still worn out and tired, but I give a different vibe to that. Right? We're fallible. But like the egg and the chicken, we can exist all in one. Doesn't make us perfect. And sometimes we get into these holes, whether it's in our belief systems, in our relationships, in our world paradigms, that we don't know how to dig ourselves back out of it. We don't know how to go back and take a deep breath. We just keep digging the hole. Because it's easier to be in the hole, out of sight, and alone, because then I can't feel as judged. But that's no place for us to be either, right? Life should be about living an experience, about having multiple experiences. And Man, I got to keep learning it. I've got to keep learning it. We'll talk a little bit more. I know we're going longer than we normally do, but that's okay, right? You don't mind. I see my room is filling up with even more people watching the live video. Welcome to all of you. And if you've missed any part of tonight's show, I hope you'll go back and check it out. And I know many of you now have short attention spans and just want a 10 or 15-minute show, or maybe at 1 hour is your limit. You can always pause it and come back to it later. See, the show will exist in many timelines. We'll be right back with more right after this. Listen, this is exciting and an opportunity that not everybody will ever get a chance to have. And I want you to have this opportunity because I was like you. I had a story in my head, something I wanted to share, but I didn't know how to get it out. But I was lucky. I had friends like Jeff Belanger, like Richard Estep, like Chad Lewis, right? Like Rosemary Ellen Guiley and John Zaffis. And I was able to ask them about writing and what does it take to get the story out of my head and onto the paper. And not everybody has that. Or you can get it, but it's going to cost a lot of money. So I wanted to make something that we could all share together and make it affordable. So if you're ready to take your writing to the next level, join us for our Writers Retreat Immersive Weekend Workshop. It's a dynamic, hands-on experience designed literally for writers at every stage, whether you have written 100 books or you're just starting. Maybe you want to figure out how to get from books to magazines, to newspapers, to blogs, to diaries. Maybe you want to jump from fiction to nonfiction, to fantasy, to science fiction. Well, you'll be able to learn from industry professionals, including acquisitions editor Amy Glazer from Llewellyn Worldwide, who will be here to look at your manuscripts, to listen to your ideas, to help you. Publicist Kat Neff and best-selling authors Richard Estep, Varla Ventura, Jeff Belanger, they're going to be here. From finishing your manuscript to crafting a compelling book proposal to marketing your work and then connecting with media, you're going to gain real-world tools to move your writing forward. You'll participate in interactive workshops, receive expert feedback, and connect with a community of passionate writers. And it's hosted by me, Dave Schrader. I was you once. I was out there wondering what to do next. I now have 2 books, one that was published through Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, a major publishing house, and one that was published by little old me, inspired by little old Richard Estep, who said, Dave, if you believe it, then achieve it and go ahead and sell it yourself, self-publish. And I did. So come on out, get more information about this event. And again, I've done the research. I've looked into these kind of retreats. A lot of these cost multiple thousands and thousands of dollars. And then you're still not guaranteed that anybody in the field is ever going to look at your manuscript or give you the advice you need. But here is your opportunity. So go check out darknessevents.com. That's darknessevents.com. I hope to see you here. It's going to be at the Palmer House in Sauk Center, Minnesota. What better way to start? What better way to get involved? Whether you want to write paranormal or you want to write romance novels, this is an inspiring place and an inspiring town. So I hope you'll come. I'm trying to bring people to Sauk Center because this is a town I think the world needs to see. It gives you a little hope that towns like this still exist. But I digress. Let's get back to it. We've got more points. I have some other things I jotted down. Spiritual practice versus neurological phenomenon. Right? Why can we accept a God and not that we can do remarkable things as well? Why do we accept? And I think it's because we want leadership. That's why rules are so effective. Boundaries are great because we need something to help keep us in line. You can see what's going on in the world around us right now, and I'm not getting political, but without boundaries and clearly defined lines, people are getting out of control, saying what they want to say without fear of retribution or being held accountable for those things. And when they are held accountable, there's righteous indignation. Like Mike Tyson says, I think the problem is people out in the world today have forgotten what it's like to say something to someone's face and get punched for it. And I'm not here to say that violence is the way, but there are repercussions for our actions, and those need to be remembered. Right? And I think that in this instance, whether it's something religious or it's something spiritual, whether it's, and again, why do you have to put a title on it? I have many people that go, I'm not really religious, but what prayer do you do? I love that attitude because I'm not Catholic. I'm not Lutheran. I'm not Methodist. I'm not Presbyterian. I'm not Baptist. I'm not Muslim. I'm not Jewish. I am a man of the world. And I believe in spirituality, and I believe in trying to be good and try to do good. So I believe that when I ask for good for others, for the spirit realm and humans alike, there's nothing bad about that. So you all say, I don't know how to pray. Can you pray for me? I will be glad to be your conduit. I will be glad to be the vocal cord for you, because you don't know what to say or how to say it. And I bet you did, push come to shove. And whether you want to just consider talking to God or talking to the universe or talking to your higher self, tap into that, because magic happens when that occurs. That is something I believe. I can't tell you what's at work. I'd like to believe there's a holy man or woman up there listening to us, that God is both man and woman and child. That's the holy union. That's the Trinity. That's what we are. And we are here to create and create wonderful things, but we're losing touch with that. That's why I think the paranormal is still so important, because it brings us together. It's an equalizer. It shows that we all have a place, and that place is confusing and lonely and scary and fun and exciting, but we all have a place. And if we learn to see beyond the things in front of us that seem unwieldy and like they want to stop or do us harm, maybe we'll see the magic that lies just beyond that next step. How many times have I missed out on life because I was afraid of the next step? Was I afraid of falling, or was I afraid of succeeding? This was a scary venture to buy a hotel, restaurant, and pub at my age. 58 used to sound ancient. Now I feel like a puppy. I still feel like a little kid. It was a scary moment. It's still scary. But you know what? I did it. And fail or succeed, I get to live an experience that not everybody in the world gets to live. And I get to weave myself into the history of something amazing. Isn't that a much better realization and a much better future for you? Instead of sitting back and letting things pass you by because you might get bumped, you might get jostled, you might get hurt. But what if just past that boulder that you narrowly hit, what if there is the payoff? There's the pot of gold waiting for you. I don't know why I suddenly sounded more like a pirate than a leprechaun. I want to inspire you. I want to entertain you. I want to educate you on these shows. I've been trying to do it for 20 years. I hope it's continuing to work, and I hope you're continuing to see that there are new ways to look at things. And right now we're in a weird evolution. I think ghosts are taking a back seat, because right now there's a much bigger consciousness towards creatures and UFOs. Does that mean that the ghost world is irrelevant? No. And I think once people start pushing the boundaries on those two levels, they're going to start seeing commonalities in what they used to believe in ghosts. And I think that's going to bring us back together again at some point, those of us in this paranormal field. I'll always be here for you and always try to walk us through and get answers together. And I hope you'll continue taking this journey with me. And I thank you for all of you that have for 20 years. I can't even tell you how much it means to me, because this is my dream. I willed it into existence, and then I put it upon you, my darklings, to keep me here and lift me up. And it must be working, because it resonates. And I'm in a smaller atmosphere, a smaller structure. I had to walk away from Darkness Radio, which was one of the biggest things I ever did in my life. And I spent 16, 17 years, and to walk away from it and just turn over my baby was terrifying. But do you know that how many things have opened up to me since then? How many new opportunities were just beyond that bridge? None of them to make me rich, none of them to make me wealthy in the way of man, but in knowledge and experience and new friendships and new relationships. It's amazing. So I encourage you, dream it, see it, bring it into reality. No matter how absurd it sounds. Right now, as I said, everybody seems to be turning away from ghosts and turning more to UFOs and to Bigfoot or cryptid conferences. The ghost conferences are kind of waning at this point. They're still there. They exist and they'll always exist, but people want to explore new avenues. I will tell you, I just talked about it on my show this weekend on WCCO, the Paranormal 360. And if you missed it, just go look up Paranormal 360, not the Paranormal 360, just Paranormal 360, wherever you listen to podcasts, you'll find my show there. And when you find it, you'll be able to tune in and listen to all the episodes you've missed. And I talk to other people and other guests and have other discussions we don't have on this show. Try to shake it up, but we just talked about the fairy realm. Fairies in New England and fairies in New York. Hey, stop it. Don't go there. You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about fays, little people, the wee people. So that was cool. I'm starting to look at things in a different perspective. I thought Chris Fleming was crazy for a long time because he talked about the imps. It's the imps. Those are imps. They're not demons. They're not aliens. They're not ghosts. They're imps. Rosemary Ellen Guiley, the jinn. It's the jinn. Jinn. Everything is the jinn until it wasn't. I'm starting to look at the fairy world in a bright new perspective, in a beautiful new way. That I think that maybe this is the nut to crack, because maybe if we peer inside this shell, maybe this is where it all starts to come together. Maybe this is where we start to make sense of everything else. And I can sense some of you straying away right now, and I can watch you go from 285 down to 251, but that's okay. Everything I dish out is not meant for everybody to enjoy, to eat, right? But I'm starting to think that there's something to the fae realm and fairies, whatever you want to call them, imps or the jinn, magical beings, interdimensional, multidimensional. Technically, they're all aliens. They're all things we're unfamiliar with. That's all an alien is something that is foreign to us, something that is different than us, but may be coexisting around us. And maybe it's because of our blindness or our unwillingness to accept that that's what keeps us from seeing. How exciting a concept is that? That if we allow ourselves to see, maybe there's more out there. Shane, are you listening? I think Dave Schrader needs his own solo show on Stream Beacon TV. So people can come see you, Shane, or you, me, and Cindy on Paranormal Mysteries. But maybe it's time I go into the fairy realm, man. Maybe it's time I go out there and I start knocking on wee little doors and start talking to people about their experiences and looking at the pictures everybody else wants to dismiss and laugh, because we were all here once when we were looking at ghosts and Bigfoot and aliens. What do you guys think? Would you want to see a show about the fae realm? Because there's a lot of danger. There's a lot of strange stuff in there too. I think it's fascinating, and I would love to get into that realm of discussion, because that's something that excites me right now. And who doesn't want to be excited by the things that they do? And I'm sorry I haven't had a chance to keep up, and I see the unbelievable amount of messages and contacts and things that were going on. I'm sorry I missed so much of it. Oh, here we go. Socrates, Socrates 77 says, how do I get Stream Beacon TV? Does anybody know? Yeah, look up Stream Beacon TV on most smart devices or your phone, and you can download the app. You can cast it from your phone onto your TV. If you have a smart TV, most smart TVs now, you can get it. And then it's about $5 a month. There's true crime, horror, and paranormal, supernatural themed shows and elements on there. So that's how you can check it out and watch our shows. Again, Paranormal Mysteries, the new one, Paranormal Mysteries Unlocked or Revealed. I can't remember. I apologize. And An Evening with the Spirits, our special that we did. So go check it out. But yeah, let's keep pushing the boundaries of comfort. Let's keep going to the places that other people fear to tread. Let's keep looking at it, because what if we find out that there is more? And what if once we get past the wall of fairy world, we find out there's something else? Wouldn't that be exciting? I think it would. Listen, Residual Worlds throws $5 my way and says, is it possible that beings of darkness show themselves in this world to our wakeful witnessing plane, and beings of light come to us in dreams? Sure. Makes as much sense as anything else, right? And I also tell you this, that what if the beings of light are the true enemy? What if the beings of light are the things we need to be cautious of, because they're shiny, they're beautiful, they're alluring, they keep our attention, when it's the shadows that are whispering, trying to get us to pay attention to the real dangers at hand. I've told this story before, and it's been a long time, so for those of you that have heard it, I apologize, but maybe this is the best way to go out tonight. And thank you for the donations everybody made, and thank you for everybody who's weighed in on the show tonight, and thank you to Shane for believing in me and keeping me afloat with doing Paranormal Mysteries. And we are starting Paranormal Mysteries Season 2. We're going to be filming it very soon, and I'm excited, and I can't wait for you to find out the stories that we're going to be involving. But I had an encounter once, feeling very despondent, feeling very broken and vulnerable, in a little coffee house. A gentle little grizzled old man sat down and asked if I minded sharing the table. I said, no, that's fine. I could only fill one seat with my big ass, so why not let somebody else sit down? And he asked me why I looked so upset. And I told him I'm just having a hard time. I feel like my life is in ruins. I feel like I'm losing touch with who I am and what's going on. I talked to him about darkness, and he asked me what my thought was on darkness. And we just had this little moment. And then, I asked him, I kind of brought up about angels, and he goes, what does an angel look like? I said, they're beautiful beings of light. He goes, are you sure? Or do they look like me? Do they look grizzled and beaten because they've been standing up for you your entire life, and they've been fighting the battle for you that you don't even know is going on around you and your soul all the time? Then when you think about it, the concept of putting up jack-o'-lanterns and wearing scary masks and faces on Halloween, on All Hallows Eve, when the barrier is thin and things can come into our world. The demons were ejected from heaven, but they were angels, beings of light, perfection. They believed themselves so perfect that they couldn't understand why God would love us over them. It's easy to love something beautiful. It's not so easy to love something so imperfect. But that's what we should love, right? But I'll go back to the story. He said, we put out the scary things. We put the gargoyles on our buildings and our churches because it's an affront to the dark side. They don't want to see that hideous nature, those masks, those faces, those gargoyles. He said, so the things that you seek, the light that you want, may not be the answer. Maybe the angels are those sitting in front of you right now that look like they're wearing the battle scars of fighting for who you are. Isn't that beautiful? I think I met an angel that day. Right? They say all heroes don't wear capes. Maybe not all angels wear wings. Maybe we got our Clarence moment like It's a Wonderful Life. Maybe things don't have to look perfect to be right. Maybe we don't have to have all the answers to have a great life. Maybe we can search for these answers. Sometimes we can do it together. Sometimes it's a search that takes us off on our own. But never stop seeking, never stop searching, never stop questioning, never stop living the life. That's my wish for you, my darklings. I thank you for all the years of friendship, support, love, kindness, empathy. And by the way, all of you that chipped in to help my granddaughter hit her goal. She set a lofty goal. She wanted to sell 1,000 boxes of Girl Scout cookies. And my son reached out and said, hey, Pop, you want to give your granddaughter a hand here? Today's the last day. This is the last weekend to sell Girl Scout cookies. And your granddaughter sold almost 700 boxes. This is the closest she's ever gotten to that. So I posted, and you, my darklings, and friends of my darklings responded. I think I got the answer was like 1,174 boxes we ended up selling. So we took her from about 685 boxes, maybe 700 that she'd sold on her own, and pushed her over and got her that goal. And she was so excited. I'll be posting a video tomorrow on my social media that she made for us. So I hope you'll check it out. But thank you all for the love and compassion you've shown me, my family and friends, and continue to show each other. I watch your chats, and I go back and I watch the chats after the shows, and I'm really touched by the way you are there for one another. So for those of you that just listen to this show, come be a part of the live show, be a part of the chat room. You may feel like an outsider at first, but if you're respectful and thoughtful and have questions and might disagree with what I have to say, but do it in a respectful way, you'll be engaged by some of the most wonderful beings on the planet. I promise you that. So check it out, be a part of it. Thank you all so much for spending this time tonight with me and letting me ramble without a guest for almost 90 minutes. Maybe the truth isn't something that you lock into place. Maybe it's something that moves with you. Because if you've had an experience, something real, something personal, something that matters, even if you don't fully understand it anymore, and maybe that's the point, not to have all the answers, not to plant your flag and refuse to move, but to stay open, to stay honest, to question what you hear, to question what you believe, and yes, even to question yourself. Not because you're wrong, my darklings, but because you're still learning. The paranormal doesn't demand certainty. It demands curiosity. And maybe the people who get closest to whatever the truth is are the ones willing to say, I don't know, but I'm still listening. And thank you for listening to our Paranormal 60.